vision, leadership, workplace-related topics. The Voices of Victory podcast show. Subscribe today. Let's go.
Vision, leadership, self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision,
Voices of Victory.
leadership,
Voices of Victory.
workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
Welcome to Voices of Victory podcast. Today, we're boldly going where no leadership podcast has gone before. That's right. Today, we're unpacking 10. Yes, 10. 10 leadership lessons that I learned growing up with Captain James Tiberius Kirk. Now, let's set the scene. The gold shirt, the hands on the hips, that dramatic lean in the captain's chair. But what you may not know is that Kirk, as a character, was modeled after the United States Navy, not just in rank or routine, but in his deep, structured sense of command. The discipline, the decisiveness, the dramatic speeches in tight quarters, all Navy, all Kirk. But beyond the phasers, the photon torpedoes, and the imagination, Kirk taught us about leadership. Raw, real, sometimes even ridiculous and silly, but always committed. So let's dive in because we're going to talk about 10 leadership truths straight from the bridge of the Enterprise right here. The very first number one is command can be and is lonely on occasion. Kirk didn't ask for company. He commanded it. He consulted with Spock, argued with Bones, but the decision was squarely on him. Now, the little takeaway with that is that leadership isn't groupthink. It's owning the moment, standing alone when no one else will, standing tall when no one else will, doing the things that no one else wants to do. The next one is trust your gut even when a computer says no. He questioned systems, he challenged logic, and he still won. Systems are in place for success, but he challenged them. He challenged that logic, and he still won at the end. Understand that you can't automate vision. Leaders feel what spreadsheets will never be able to see. And the third one is know the rules. Know the rules so you can actually break them with precision. Kirk read the manual, then he tossed it into a warped core when it got in his way. The takeaway from it was master the system, understand the system, utilize the system, but then learn to outmaneuver it. Learn to stretch beyond. Number 4 was build a crew that can actually argue with you. Spock, Uhura, Sulu, Bones, they were not yes people. They were truth bringers. They were people that challenged Kirk. And the takeaway from that is that great leaders don't just tolerate dissent. They can actually invite it. And guess what? Conflict can polish a relationship and make it very shiny. Friction creates polish. And when friction happens enough, it can polish a relationship of several people. Now, boldness was another big takeaway. Boldness is a leadership language. He beamed down first, usually. He challenged Klingons all alone, and he flirted with many space anomalies. The big takeaway is he didn't wait for safety. He decided to lead with audacity and with courage. Now, sacrifice is really important. Sacrifice comes with the chair, with the helm. Let's go there. We're going to go into the Wrath of Khan. Spock entered the chamber, radiation flooding and filling the entire room. And through the glass, he said, and this is a spoiler alert, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Now, Spock called it rational transaction, but Kirk felt it deep in his soul, because real leaders know that sometimes the cost can indeed be personal. You might not die dramatically in a radiation reactor chamber, but you may actually sacrifice. You may sacrifice your time, you may sacrifice your comfort, you may sacrifice your praise, but even parts of your heart when it makes a difference. The big takeaway is that leadership requires loss on occasion, not in every circumstance, and we don't have to fall into martyrdom syndrome. We could still sacrifice, but in a healthy way, and that's where it's really important. The keyword is healthy. And number 7 was laugh. Even while the ship had problems, Kirk cracked jokes mid-crisis, not to deflect, but to disarm some of the fear. And humor isn't weakness. It's actually strength with a big wink. That's the fun part. And number 8 is that you You've got to fall in love with your mission, not the spotlight. Yeah, he got close-ups, on the set, but when it actually did matter, he chose to ship over himself every single time, and that's how his character was portrayed. Now, you got to keep in mind, we understand that, Kirk doesn't really exist. He's a fantasy, but the lessons, the insights, the wisdom, it's embedded. And that's the big thing with story and humanity, is that you could have stories, but deep down inside, there's a hidden insight, a hidden piece of wisdom. And with Kirk and the mission, your why should be far bigger than your wow and how people will perceive you. Now, number 9 is know when to surrender or let go, and when to bluff, if you have to, your way towards victory. Kirk didn't just win battles, he outwitted hostile planets, all kinds of creatures, and hostile environments. Leadership isn't just firepower, it's also a level of finesse with it. Now, number 10, listen to logic and feel with empathy, then choose. Spock gave the facts, Bones gave feelings with a lot of passion, and Kirk made the call. He actually made the call. Leadership isn't a binary concept, it's a bold balance. That's the beauty and takeaway of it all. So here's the truth. You don't need a starship to lead with courage, and you don't need warp drive to chart your course. What you need is the willingness, the very willingness to step onto your bridge, to listen, to act, to sacrifice, to bring strength when people are completely down and in their worst moment. And sometimes to love the mission is more than just your comfort. This is the Voices of Victory podcast. I am Mario D. Leone. And remember, great leaders don't wait to be called captain. They take the chair and they take the helm. Have a great day.